Hey there, and welcome to Life's Just Perfect. I'm Brenna Stebbins, a wife, mom, and full-time realtor here in North Carolina. 7 years ago, I transplanted from a tiny town in Maine to an only slightly bigger small town, and let me tell you, it has been a journey. Let's be real, these middle years, the ones where you're too old to hang out in the McDonald's playground but still figuring out what you want to be when you grow up, they're messy, magical, and nobody talks about it enough. Perfect is all about perception. What's perfect for one person might not look like perfection to another, but that doesn't make it any less beautiful. So let's dive in and embrace the chaos and talk about everything that leads us to our own version of perfect. Hey guys, it is January 10th of 2025, which means it is the second Friday in January, also lovingly known as National Quitters Day. Let's talk about it. National Quitters Day. It's observed yearly, which is crazy to me, but statistics show that up to 88% of individuals who set New Year's resolutions fail within the first 2 weeks. And another over 80% fail to maintain those resolutions by the beginning of February. So they've pinpointed the second Friday in January as Quitters Day because it's the peak time in which the motivation that you came into this new year with starts to dissipate. And here's the thing. I have a couple of things to talk about today. Quitting isn't always bad, and that's going to be controversial, but here I am to say what I have to say. There are instances and there are times when quitting is not bad. So I want to kind of talk about the idea of not giving up on your goals and not quitting, but also talk about when quitting is empowering. Okay, so one thing that I want to talk about is why I think, and this is just me rattling off, why I think it's so common for people to step away or fall off the wagon or just throw in the towel on these resolutions especially when they're so new. And I think it's because they set themselves up for failure right from the very beginning. In the first episode, we talked about, I think Jim going to the gym for 7 days a week, and he was going originally for 5. The transition from 5 days to 7 days isn't necessarily a huge leap, but if you're somebody who hasn't left your living room or set foot in a gym in 3 years, and now you're like, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour, 5 days a week, that might not be setting you up for success. Or if you are somebody who's like been an avid smoker for 40 years, your whole life revolves around your smoke breaks and that nicotine hit, and you're like, cold turkey, I'm gonna quit smoking around the holidays. Lord bless you. And I don't smoke, but something like that. And I feel like we don't just go into the new year with a resolution. I feel like people have really embodied this mindset of new year, new me, and they want to change everything. They want to change their morning routine, how they dress, how they speak, how they present themselves, the way that they move about the world. Maybe they're changing their fitness habits. Maybe they're starting a new career path. There's so many things that people will throw and just stockpile on top of each other and go into this new year completely overwhelmed with these huge, sudden, quote, necessary changes that they have to make in order to hit their goal this year. And I think that it's exhausting. It's exhausting, quite frankly, to go into the new year blindsided. And for those of you that start the new year off, after a great party the night before, a little hungover, a little not feeling well, that's not a great start. You're not setting yourself up for success that way either. So I think that that's the biggest thing. When you are setting goals or resolutions, and I saw somewhere, I think I was reading an article about how they're reframing resolutions and calling them commitments. I think it was a blog post. That they're not calling, she wasn't calling her New Year's resolutions this year. She was calling them commitments. They were commitments to herself, right? And in that, she was going to add a yoga class once a week to her ritual. A yoga class once a week is pretty manageable, you know? You've got 7 days to throw it in there. You're not saying that you're going to go to yoga at 5 a.m. Monday through Friday for the rest of the year. One yoga class a week. That was a commitment, right? That she was going to walk and listen to an audiobook or a podcast for 30 minutes twice a week. Those are very manageable. Those are very manageable things. She was going to start getting up 30 minutes earlier, not 2 hours earlier, 30 minutes earlier. And I think that those things, and I don't know if you've ever read Atomic Habits by James Clear. You should read that, because the idea behind that is adding one little thing to a routine that you already have in place, right? If you're going to start doing a skincare regimen, you don't just throw it in the middle of an afternoon at 2 o'clock. You put in your skincare regimen when you're already at the sink in the morning brushing your teeth, right? It's just one more step that you've added to the process that your brain already has going. I think that that's the easiest way to make that happen. So if you are somebody who's made commitments or resolutions, please don't quit on those. Maybe reframe them. Maybe think of a way that is a little less daunting than, whatever you have signed up for or planned for or told yourself this year. Try to look at it a little bit more. I don't want to say realistically. Listen, you can do hard things. You can do all the things that you set your mind to. But if you're just jumping in cold, off the deep end, you're setting yourself up for a hard go of it. That's all I'm saying. The flip side of that, when quitting is empowering, maybe we're talking about quitting like a habit like that, like quitting smoking. And again, this doesn't have to be a cold turkey thing. This is maybe going from 2 packs, 1 pack, or if you have a drink every night after work, that you're only going to have a drink Saturday and Sunday, cutting those little things out. Maybe it's a job. Maybe your boss is a jerk and you've hated it for years and you just need to get out and you haven't. And that change will change your life. You walk away from that toxic job, that toxic friendship, that hurtful relationship, and start making space for what truly matters and what's going to set you up on the path to get where you want to go. I think it was the second episode we talked about no as a full sentence. When you say yes to somebody, you are automatically saying no to something else. And there's a whole theory that goes into that. But the idea is if you have told yourself, for example, that you're going to go to that yoga class, right? And somebody says, oh, you know what? Let's go to dinner. Let's go get dinner and drinks. And you're like, yeah, that sounds great. But now it's already been all week. You've pushed this yoga class out to the very end. If you go to dinner, you're not going to make it to the yoga class. So you're saying yes to that friend and you're saying no to something for yourself, right? And vice versa. If you say, no, I'm going to sit this one out, but let me know next time you go to dinner, you're saying yes to yourself. You said no to them, but you are saying yes to something that you've already told yourself is important to you. You have to make tiny promises, little commitments to yourself and keep them, right? Our brains are really, they're very powerful, but it's like AI, right? It's like ChatGPT. The more information that you put into it, it learns. So if you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to walk 30 minutes every day. And then Monday, I just don't really want to get on the treadmill, or Tuesday, it's too cold, or Wednesday, you kind of walked around the grocery store, so that's going to count. Your brain remembers like, it's not that important. We didn't really focus on that. We're not that important. It's not a big deal. We're not serious about this. And over time, that just becomes, it's no big deal. If you can't make and keep those promises and commitments to yourself, how can you do that for other people? The point is, you do it for other people, but you don't treat yourself the way that you treat other people. And that is bananas. That is also something that we should have left in 2024. You need to make those little commitments to yourself and keep them. Your brain will pick up on that. You will grow from that because the repetition, your brain's like, I do this. I love myself. I work on myself. I keep my promises. I keep my commitments. Just keeps going on, goes on from there. I think there's such a negative energy around quitting, right? Are you a quitter? Mama didn't raise no quitter, right? And there is something to be said about that because I feel like so many people in so many areas of life, not just in resolutions, just throw their hands up in the air and say, you know what? Never mind. This relationship's too hard. We don't see eye to eye. It's not working for me anymore. And then they just throw their hands up in the air and chase after the next serotonin and dopamine high until it doesn't work again. And it's just a repeatable, horrible hamster wheel. But there are times when you need to be able to recognize that, listen, this is not working. It's not working for me personally. It's not working for my business. It's not working for my relationships. And when quitting, saying no, enough is enough, and how to do that with confidence is key. Just making that stand, whether you're standing up for yourself, standing up for your family, standing up for your relationship. Listen, this no longer is working. Here's plan B. Quitting doesn't mean failure. It means that you're making room for what's next. If I'm doing something for marketing and I'm not seeing a return on that, do you just keep blindly throwing money at that? Time, money, effort for it to not work? If you buy those, little weight loss pills that are however much a month and you're like, wow, I'm just not seeing this, but the ad on TV says it's good, so I'm just going to keep buying this, keep doing this, and you don't see results, I think they call that crazy. Like continuing the same thing, expecting different results. I think that's what they call insanity. But that's another episode for another day. Something that I said I was bringing into 2025 was celebrating the small wins. And I think that that's also a great way if you are pushing forward. And I totally do think that you should push forward with those resolutions, those commitments, whatever you told yourself you were going to do going into this new year. I think that breaking it down into those little bite-sized nuggets and rewarding that is, for me anyways, like I said, bribery is great. Like, I'm recording this podcast instead of sitting on the couch with my dog because she was like, Mom, I need attention. Nobody's petted me in 10 minutes, And afterwards, I'm going to go sit on the couch with my dog and drink a decaf coffee, because that is something that I gave up in 2024 was caffeine. It is not good for my mental health. I'm too anxious. Being overstimulated and stimulated by a caffeine overdose is just not great. Not great. I do love the taste of coffee though, so decaf it is for me. However, that's neither here nor there. But all of this to say that National Quitters Day is looked at in several different instances. They're looking at it as a joke. Ha ha ha, you couldn't make it 2 weeks. But remember, in some instances, quitting is the bravest move that you can make. And sometimes digging in, sticking it out, that's where the magic happens. So thanks again for hanging out with me today. I am looking forward to seeing you guys again next time. We just finished another episode of Life's Just Perfect with a crooked T. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. And until next time, let's keep redefining the word perfect.